They'll be unmatched, unclassified, historic, and as popular as wrestling itself in the unveiling of what will be billed as one of the top wrestling talk shows in the nation. We'll bring you the legends, the coaches, the perspective, and the 0 to 100 wrestling matchups that change the gravity of the sport. In 2-on-1 with Mike and Mike.
You know, I want to look at the stats. I don't want to look at emotion.
I don't know what you're looking at. I mean, just simply said is that you guys do have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kerry McCoy. That guy did unbelievable things. He is Atlas. You put him up. He's carrying the world on his back, and it shouldn't detract from any of their accomplishments. But we had a bad group of dudes who were able to be bad groups of dudes because of the bad group of dudes that came before us. But with that said, Mike, my crew never loses to your crew. That's not how it goes.
Welcome to 2-on-1 with Mike and Mike.
It's really my pleasure, my honor, and I'm incredibly grateful to have you on the show, Mr. Meehan.
Oh, thank you very much, Mike.
You know, Mr. Meehan is, he's like Wizard of Oz. He's the guy behind the guy, and he's the guy. You know, he's all these things rolled up in one. And you've had, a really remarkable life. I don't know that you started your memoir yet, but perhaps in between baseball games for your grandkids, you can. But to give some people some background, you started Long Island Wrestling. Just tell me what year it was that you started the wrestling.com.
Well, Long Island Wrestling started in 2002. It was basically an outgrowth of the Hofstra coach at the time, Tom Ryan, wanted to start an organization, a not-for-profit organization, to promote all levels of wrestling, from youth to college on Long Island. And he got a fellow named Scott Arnell to come in on and be the president, and then he got myself. Once we got going, we decided a website would be one of the things we would do.
What motivates you to continue to do what you've done? And you didn't start this to get a green jacket, and you were a man that was creating the internet with Ray Brinzer. So how did this happen?
Well, it originally started with, I got involved with wrestling when my kids, my oldest boy was in first grade. And as time went on, I got more involved helping out. In the beginning, just I would be the guy who was making the hotel reservations for the trips. And then, I don't know, it was like mid 80s, we had a little problem in the eastern side of New York, and there was a organizational turnover, and they needed somebody to be a kids director in Suffolk County, and I didn't know enough at the time not to put my hand up. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I put my hand up and got involved. Didn't really know anybody at the time, coaches, or had to run a tournament shortly thereafter to qualify kids to go to the state tournament. And it was tough, not knowing any coaches, who the pairs were, officials. But we got through it. I started making friends. And
you've served in pretty much every capacity. I mean, I believe you've been a pairing official, you've been an official, you've run the tournaments, you've fundraised for tournaments, right? I mean, you've run the sectional, you've been the scoring official or the computer operations director for the Suffolk County tournament. You've run the Rocky Gilmore tournament. You've helped out at the Sayville tournament. You've been, I believe, involved in New York State. I mean, I can't think of a capacity that you haven't done in wrestling.
I didn't really know about this web stuff, but I said, that'd be the perfect venue to put, rather than go out and try to find people to send information to, put information like on the web and let people come and get it if they wanted it. And I didn't really know about doing websites and things, but there was a North Carolina site that I would go on and look at the source and learn from there. So I did a New York site, and I would just go on all the online newspapers in the state and get results. But as time went on, it was actually a second job.
Right.
Plus websites started, newspaper sites started charging.
Okay.
So it became cost prohibitive. In 2000, I stopped that.
Okay.
And in 2002, when we started Long Island Wrestling Association, that's when the Long Island site started.
Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
So I want to talk again. I think there's maybe some kids that are listening, some adults that are listening that probably are inspired by, what you've done for so long. And, you're highly organized, you have a high aptitude. I understand that you were in the military. I don't know if we can get that picture flashed up, but we probably will maybe.
It looks like Rambo in that picture. I hope we can get that up.
If it's the picture you're talking about, it was a captured North Korean submachine gun.
It looks pretty impressive. The war paint on and everything. So hopefully we get that up.
Yeah, I was also skinny back then. So two things about the military. While I was in there, the two things happened, I think, that maybe carry forward was, one, I was in officers candidate school for a little while, where one of the main things you learn is, especially in the case of any kind of battle or military thing, you can't stand around all afternoon going, well, I don't know, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You got to take in a few opinions, make a decision, and say, this is what we're going to do. So I learned a little bit there. And then the second year I was in the Army, I was in charge of a squad, I would have been like 10 guys, 8 to 10 guys in
sergeant. Were you a sergeant? A sergeant?
Yeah, I ended up being a sergeant.
Okay.
Just they needed somebody. I progressed pretty fast just because they needed somebody, having had the officers candidate school background.
and then your work ethic and your brain.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And when I got out, well, first of all, before I went in the service, I had already started working at Grumman. I got drafted while I was there. When I came back, I was lucky enough to get sent to school. They gave you aptitude tests. I went to school. Programming was, just starting off. We're talking mid-60s. Talking computers only stored 64. You have memory sticks now, or your phone has megs of storage, right? You only have 64,000 characters of storage on it.
Right.
And I worked there for.
It's like talking about inventing the TV and that not being a big deal because we have flat screens today.
When Grumman started doing outside work, I got involved in doing writing things for other outside companies. We did work for a telephone company. From that, we wrote something that we tried to sell at Grumman, which didn't go that well, but a telephone company in Canada picked it up. After a while, they tried to do it, take care of it on their own. Couldn't do it, and they came to three of us that were working at Grumman at the time and asked if we wanted to go out on our own. So we started our own company, and ended up working for them remotely for another 20, how many years was that? About 20-something years, 23 years.
Yeah, you were one of the first people that I knew that worked remotely full time. I mean, you were one of the first people I knew.
I did work in the province of Saskatchewan, which is the third province from the west in Canada, every other week for 2 years.
Okay.
That was a tough time when my boys were in junior high. It was a tough time, but it was a good experience. And I stopped working about 3 years ago, but the last, 2015, 16, I was just working part-time.
How many hours do you put into Long Island Wrestling?
Yeah, that was my next question. How many hours? What's an average?
This was a normal year, 35 to 40 hours a week.
So I want everyone to hear that.
December, January.
Yeah, I want everyone to hear that that's listening. All the coaches, all the fans that take it for granted or maybe complain if there's a blip or if we're down for a second. Mr. Meehan puts equivalent of a full-time job for nothing on behalf of the Long Island wrestling community. I mean, it's amazing. And again, I can't thank you enough. As you know, I'm a wrestling junkie, and that site has given me so much joy and pleasure and information.
Well, just let me mention where the whole idea came from.
Okay.
Just quickly, or why I think it works is because I was never a coach. I'm not a coach. I wasn't a wrestler, but I was a parent of kids that wrestled, and all the information that I wanted to know, where was something, what time did it start, what did you have to do to get there, all the information a parent would want to know, that was in my mind, because I always wanted to ask those questions because I had kids wrestling. So I think it makes it easier for me to know what kind of information I'd want to put on the website, because I think I know what parents want to know.
You want the best of high school wrestling? Long Island Wrestling Association's website brings you the best. Wrestling is one of the toughest blue-collar sports. The sport has tens of thousands of followers, and at the center of it all is the Long Island Wrestling Association, measuring the gravity of the sport. In 2002, National Hall of Fame wrestling inductee Steve Meehan created the #1 source for wrestling news in New York State. With contributors like Long Island Sports Hall of Fame inductee and historian Andy Slauson, the site is the most comprehensive wrestling website in the country for high school wrestling news. With in-depth analysis, entertaining facts, forums, and trending topics, This site has a treasure trove of historic high school wrestling information, with records dating back to the 1930s. There is no better source for high school wrestling coverage. Long Island Wrestling Association, keeping the wrestling world up to speed.
Well, again, Mr. Meehan, I don't want to make you blush, but I've been, we talked about heroes. You've been a hero to many. You've provided such a value to Long Island Wrestling. I bring up that light switch. LongIslandWrestling.com is always on. I don't think people realize the Herculean efforts that you put forth, full-time job or more. I think you're probably being shy in terms of the number of hours, whether it's, tabulating results, reconciling scores, moderating the forum, adding articles and pictures and growing and advertising. You're at every major tournament that I go to. I see you there running the Section 11 tournament, which is a yeoman's effort in itself. So I want to personally thank you on behalf of me and really everyone else for what you do. And Mike, I'm sure you have some sentiments too.
Yeah, no, Mr. Meehan, I think that, like I said, you're just what you've created, where the intent in you creating it has been, it's immeasurable for how many people Long Island Wrestling, in some way has affected, because you've organized and been able to get people to get where they need to be, and relationships formed, scholarships were given. People have traveled and seen the world. They've done things because of the sport of wrestling, and we couldn't have done it without the infrastructure that you put in place. So, yeah, thanks from everybody.
You're welcome. Can I just mention one person's name? Like, I would bet you a good 50% of the history that we have on the side, especially in the high school results, Section 11 championship tournaments results that we have every one of, and a lot of the state results that we work together on is Andy Slauson.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, we know
a huge amount of the results that we have on the site.
Yeah, Andy
is unbelievable. That guy is, we want to have him on, just as a full-time stat guy, because, you say anything about, any season and he knows what's going on. He's obviously got a strong, I think probably the right opinion, because he thinks that my generation was the best generation out of New York. But we think that Andy is, one of the same guys as you are, Mr. Meehan, that the things that he's done for wrestling is, and we're definitely have him on, but it's immeasurable. You can't see it because he's been behind the scenes doing it for free. He's done, more for wrestling that nobody knows about than just about anybody, save yourself.
Yeah, I mean, he's a walking encyclopedia. I mean, almost to the point where you're afraid to, if you're not fully confident in a stat or a piece of, and you too, Mr. Meehan, you too, that if I'm not fully confident in a stat or a piece of information, if I'm in front of you or Andy, I don't say it. I've learned my lesson many times. I've been corrected many times, and for the record, Michael, we're gonna probably have a show on that 1992 team versus your team, and we'll talk about what was a better team in terms of the state team. But with that being said, again, just to close, I appreciate you, Mr. Meehan. Thank you for everything that you've done for me personally when I was coaching you, when I was a kid, for the community. You are a true treasure, and we appreciate you, Mr. Meehan.
In our next 2-on-1 with Mike and Mike, we sit down with world-class athlete Jenna Burkett. You won't want to miss it.